My name is Mridvika. Can you hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. Sounds good. Business for Shortlist. For some of you who know, Shortlist is a recruitment firm and it's enabled by technology. And what we do is we match job seekers with careers that they love to do. What we are here today to do is we are here to demystify the world of data science, what career options are available. We will touch upon the effects of COVID-19 and its impact on the data science jobs. How can data aspirants switch careers from non-data science fields to data science fields, and then we will have some time for Q&A towards the end of it. I have a very esteemed panel here with me, and I have the opportunity to introduce them. First one is Sudhir. He's the CTO of Shortlist. He was employee number 1 and has been with us for about 5 years now. Sudhir comes with over 15 years of leadership experience in building engineering teams and has previously worked at organizations like AT&T, Hewlett-Packard, and True Media. Sudhir, just raise your hand so that everyone knows who you are.
Hello, everyone.
Great, thanks, Sudhir. The next one on our panel is Mayuresh. He is the co-founder of Grey Atom. Some of you know Grey Atom is an edtech company that has changed the way technology can be learned. They provide enriching ecosystem through mentor-led and practice-centered courses through their online proprietary G-Labs platform. We'd learn a little bit more about Mayuresh's professional journey in a few minutes. Hi, Mayuresh. Thank you so much for taking the time out. It's a privilege to have you in conversation here with us. Next up, we have Ronak. Ronak is a data scientist at Wipro with his specialty being machine learning. Prior to this, he was a programmer analyst at Cognizant. He had deep interest in problem solving and analytics that led him to pursue a program with Grey Atom, which is how he transitioned into the world of data science. So we'd love to hear from Ronak about his experiences of what probed him to sort of pursue data science as a career option, and then how did Grey Atom help him get there, and what does he do today. So welcome, Ronak. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure there are many others like you who are eager to hear from you directly. Welcome. With that, why don't I officially kickstart the panel discussion for today evening, and we'll take about the next 30 minutes or so to learn from these stalwarts around their experiences in the field of data science. So let me start with Mayuresh. Mayuresh, my first question to you is two parts. First, can you help us decipher what is data science so that people who are not from this field are able to understand what it means. And then the second thing I'd love to hear from you, Mayuresh, is like what led you to start Grey Atom, and what role do you play in making data science aspirants open to the opportunities that are available out there. So over to you, Mayuresh.
Right. Thank you so much, Mridvika, for the very kind introduction. Let me just give the response super brief. How and why did we start Grey Atom? Essentially, way back in 2016, we ourselves were building a product into the MarTech space, which required a lot of data science itself. We were looking at natural language processing and natural language generation experts. For reasons that we firsthand discovered, that I think scouting for talent is extremely difficult, and that was a very, very tough thing for us to crack at that point in time. So we really got deeper into the problem by actually trying to organize meetups where we would actually come across people who are in data sciences, natural language processing. And somewhere along the way, where we interacted with close to 1,000 people, we discovered that I think having people upskilled, industry ready, portable, that itself is a major challenge. I think that was really the genesis of Grey Atom. where we were trying to build something, we couldn't build it, and we kind of stumbled upon that, I think this is a problem that needs to be solved in a very significant way. So that's like the very short answer on how and why Grey Atom. With respect to what is data science, um, I think just to keep it very, very simple, I think when you're using Google Translate, it's around you. When you're using WhatsApp and you get some sort of a prompt which tells you what word are you going to type in next, data science is right there. When you're trying to book an Uber, or when you're trying to book something on Book My Show, and you get a invite from Uber saying that you have a movie that's coming up in later in the evening. Data science is at play over there. So data science is something that is very much integrated. It is solving your problems at this point in time, and we just don't know that it is. Apart from the very popular, use cases on Amazon.com, people who bought this also bought that. There's a very vast array of problems that are consistently being solved by data science as we speak. So anything that uses data to solve business problems, to either cut cost, to generate revenue, is where data science is. There is no problem which is there at this point in time, which is not a data problem. And the software that we're building right now is maybe more than software, it's actually dataware. So yeah, I think those are my 2 cents. Ladvika, over to you.
Thanks, Mayuresh. That was very, very relatable. With that, what I do is turn it over to Sudhir to help us understand how is Shortlist, being a recruitment firm, using data to solve the problem of matching talent with opportunities.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Yes, Mridvika. So at Shortlist, as many of you know, as Mridvika was sharing in the beginning, we are here to help companies hire people, where we are matching talent to opportunities. We are using data for many things as we are going towards being a data-driven organization. One of the biggest thing and what we're trying to do is matching. Matching is a very big project for any company of our type, which is into recruiting, where we are trying to match candidates to the right jobs. The more data that we get, the better we can do the matches. But the more data that you ask, there is a drop-off conversion problems with the candidates or users. All of that said, I'm now how do we kind of balance with asking for as less data as possible and making the most relevant and right decision to help candidates find their dream jobs? And the same thing goes with companies. We want to capture as less data as possible from the companies, but give them the best hires. So, and coming to data, data science or even using algorithms is one aspect of it. I'm sure Mayuresh may go over more in detail later. But we have a huge chunk of work that's going into data beyond building just the algorithms. There is a data lake that we have to build. And we are unifying the data sources from multiple places and building a data lake, on top of which we have built the amazing reports so that we could give access to the business for making proper business decisions using the data and without getting SQL servers and all of that stuff. Most interestingly, while we build these reports and do these algorithms, there are a lot of times our data team is building and sharing insights. Most of the times, these insights are mythbusters, seriously. Whatever we think, our gut feeling is completely being replaced and challenged by the data. And the same thing is going towards our algorithms too. It's not that we cannot say that somebody with 5 years of experience is always a great fit for a job that says has a 5-year requirement. We are changing those things at Shortlist, and data science is helping us hugely, and which is really challenging most of our thoughts that we had before we got into that understanding the data. We are building many AI-driven products that we are plugging into our offerings. And at the same time, data team at Shortlist is a very integral part of the product development process, where we make product decisions using data-driven approach.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sudhir. And that because we haven't heard a lot of recruitment firms using data in the way that you just described, that allows the job seekers on one end to willingly provide data that is then used to sort of match them with opportunities with employers on the other end. Ronak, I see a lot of questions coming up, from our participants around. I'm not from technology background, or not from data science or computer engineering background. How do I enter this space? So I think it's only apt to bring you into the discussion and request you to sort of share your own professional journey with all of us, so that we can we can draw parallels and feel inspired with how you've made the transition. So Ronak, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start off by saying I'm from a non-technical background, meaning I had no prior experience in programming before I started my journey. So like most of you out there, I wasn't happy with what I was doing back then. And I experimented with quite a few roles, from marketing to digital marketing. You name it, I've tried everything. And eventually I came across an interesting advertisement about data science, and it piqued my interest. And me being a pretty big Sherlock Holmes fan, this seemed like the closest thing possible for me to get investigating on something, even more so with data. So I tried doing a few free online courses online, but unfortunately that didn't cut it for me. And what do you do next? You start Googling and you try finding what's the next best thing for you. And I found classroom-based training was something which is essential. So that got my attention towards Grey Atom. So that's when I decided to pursue full-time. I decided to quit. It's not necessary everyone must, but it's definitely gonna show your commitment towards achieving your goals. So I'm pretty happy to say that was the successful transition that I have been looking for ever since I started off the journey. And there's no reason why anyone, no matter which stage of your career, there's no reason why you should not be able to do it. And today, if you ask me, I have started enjoying programming more than anything. And that's what data science is for you. You don't really have to be the best out there, but as long as you can get the job done, enjoy the work, I think that's all there is to do anything. So you get the flexibility out of it. There's so much at work. There's no one like bossing you around compared to other projects that I dealt with earlier. So there are a lot of good things going on for this kind of career. Yeah.
Thanks, Ronak. Mayuresh, we have a lot of questions that participants are asking around, should I take a data science job or a data analyst job? I think it's appropriate for our audience to learn a little bit about what are the different kind of role titles that exist in this function. We hear titles that float around that range from a data analyst to a data engineer to a machine learning engineer to whatever other role titles that exist. So it would be very useful for our participants and audience to understand what are the different career paths that exist when we talk about data science broadly.
Yeah, great. So let me just this is one of the questions that does pop up very often. Let me just demystify this. There would be as many designations as many people out there. And I think you can get very creative with them. With respect to data sciences, I think a good lens to look at the roles available is basically maybe threefold. One is if you're doing a lot of data engineering, where you are making sure that there is a data that is coming in, it is coming with the right velocity, veracity, all those kinds of things. Basically, you're making sure that the rest of the team is able to use the data. So that's like what a data engineer typically does, reading data files, sources across real-time, non-real-time, static, video, all sorts of sources. Maybe then there is a whole field where you're doing a lot of model building, you're actually solving the problem that the business needs, that kind of a thing. And for that, you're using Python or anything that is there, which is either on the client stack or your stack. There is maybe a second group of roles. So I think the typical designations over there are machine learning scientist, data scientist, anything. I mean, data engineer is more and more in the first bucket. And the third thing is where, and I think it's not a very popular role going forward, is where you're doing a lot of people management, you're doing a lot of client management, you're making sure that you're taking the results from the realm of data to the realm of business and communication and that kind of a thing. You're using maybe slightly, I would say, entry-level drag and drop GUI-based tools, Excel, Tableau, visualization, and you're solving problems, but again at a very different scale and intensity. You're not doing any web deployments or any endpoint creation or anything of that sort. That is maybe in the second bucket. So there are three buckets. One, where you make sure that the data infrastructure is ready for the rest of the team and the rest of the org maybe. Second, where you're actually solving business problems and you're maybe doing it in a very programmatic way and you're opening those things out for the businesses and all those things. And third is when you're doing a lot of communication on top of it, whether it can be visualization, it can be client management, it can be people management, all of it. So the designations that float around, it can get into any of these buckets and there is no real hard mapping or matching. So I would say just keep all these designations aside. It's just trying to understand what your job role, job description is. That's one quick point. And second quick point is, ever since I think, for the last 15 years, the terminology has only kept on evolving. When I graduated, it was everyone wanted to go to US and do MIS, pattern recognition, image processing. In 2009, the terminology shifted to analytics, predictive modeling, prescriptive analytics, predictive analytics. 2013, we were doing statistical modeling. 2017, data science is kind of the word, deep learning, reinforcement learning, AI. Maybe I think 2022 you will have combinatorics. All of them essentially broadly are like built out of the same stem. They have different thicknesses. It's something very common, something basic and something very integral. So I would say stay away from, not stay away, but I think just demystify all these words that are thrown at you. You're going to get into any of these three buckets at any given point in time. Oh, that
Thank you, Mayuresh. And if I have to sum it up, so there are these three different, predominant buckets under which all the different kind of role titles fit in, from data analyst to data engineer to machine learning engineer to statistician, etc. So I think what Mayuresh was trying to say is that the role titles are immaterial as much as it's what interests you the most in one of these three buckets. Sudhir, I'd love to understand from you, what do you think the future of data science is, not just in India, but like globally? I know you keep attending a lot of different conferences and keep meeting a lot of, different engaged community members within data science. So what is your read in terms of what the future holds for aspirants who want to find their career in data science?
Great. Yeah, definitely there is a very, very bright future for data science, because data science isn't good to have anymore. It's turning out to be a must-have for any product to succeed or a company to be successful and make a real impact. As we have seen, and like we have just seen this with the COVID, even most of the data scientists have been trying to find possible cures faster using data science, and they have been helping track the spread using data science. So there is not a single domain where you cannot use data science, starting from agriculture or marketing, medicine. You can use it in every domain and every area to really make it successful. Just to give a sense of the scale of the impact this data science can have, Vinod Khosla, one of the American billionaire, he's a co-founder of Sun Microsystems, said, in the next 10 years, data science and software will do more for medicine than all of the biological sciences together that were done so far. That is a level of impact data science is going to make. And this is just like one field, what I'm mentioning here, but that just gives a flavor of the size of the impact and the level of kind of value it brings to any organization or any field going forward.
Thanks, Sudhir. Ronak, what were some of the barriers that you faced as you decided to pursue this as your career interest, or this as your professional field where you'd like to get a job, because there are many aspirants who are asking the question on how do we enter data science. So I'm sure they have a lot to learn from your own journey. So if you can share a little bit about what were some of the challenges that you faced as you tried to get into this field, and what did you exactly do to get into data science?
Yeah, sure. So like I told earlier, I didn't have any prior coding experience. So that's number one that I had to tick off. Once I took care of Python, I understood how it's taken care. And one other reason why it's a lot more easier to pick up coding today is because everything is out there in the Google. So whatever problem you're trying to tackle, it's already been taken care, or it's just a few seconds away from you knowing it. So that's kind of like one of the big chunk. Other than that, I would say you can read a number of blogs. That certainly helps. You should stay up to date as to what is the current trend. And I think with the way transition has happened over the years, you can even pick out what kind of role you want to choose or which domain. So back when I started, I didn't have a choice, but today you get to be a computer vision engineer. You can be a deep learning engineer. You can even be an NLP engineer. So you get to choose your track. And that's kind of like how how data science has been evolving over the years. So that I would say it's only getting better from here on.
Great. Mayuresh, there are people who want to know about like what are the technical skills required to succeed in this field. So the technical skills would obviously range from the problem-solving skills to understanding the needs of the business to be able to solve that problem, to actually the hardcore programming language understanding. So if you could elaborate on what are those different types of skills, and how can people look forward to getting themselves trained into one of those?
Awesome. So yeah, great question. So data science is one of those fields where we can speak about Ronak over here. Ronak did mention that he was not an active programmer, or maybe he was not a programmer and he made that transition. So let's look at this as maybe two transitions. One is, I think, a non-programmer to programmer, and second is a programmer to a data scientist. So it's a two-step kind of a journey. There is enough documentation available on this, but I'll just quickly touch upon the key points and aspects. One very popular point is that you need to have a good understanding of statistics and maths. That is something that is very strongly perpetuated. Creativity, yes. Problem solving skills, definitely. So I think one thing I would like to kind of bring, and I'm seeing the questions very, very strongly. I want to make some 1, 2, 3 clear binary statements over here. One is, I think if you are not a programmer at this point in time and you want to make a transition into data science, yes, you can make a transition. Python is an exceptionally simple language. It is like English. All it takes is 30 minutes every day for 30 days. Don't try to force it or make it faster than that. Put in 30 days, 30 minutes each, and you will be there. Secondly, if you're not from a technical background where you don't have a grounding in maths and stats at an engineering level, it is perfectly fine. If you're not from an engineering background, it is perfectly fine. Our curriculum across India, or for that matter, across the globe, 11th, 12th, we typically touch upon multiple topics, which are limits, continuities, derivative, and you get into calculus, advanced calculus, maths 1, maths 2, maths 3 in the engineering part. But you would definitely touch upon the calculus aspects even in the 10+2 kind of a curriculum. So if you're not from a technical background, you have nothing to worry about that at all. Coming back to the question, I mean, the thick of the question, where I think what are the skills that are required and what makes like a good data scientist. We've seen people make this transition from anywhere and everywhere. Absolutely. I think, and I've been, part where a part of the curriculum I was for Ronak was covered by me. So I think we have a very deep connect with Ronak over here. So we've seen some beautiful transitions. So there's no real hard and fast kind of a thing. It is more of a, the success of a candidate really depends on, how you shape yourself in those, that duration, that journey where you are part of. If you try to be inorganic, try to force something on yourself, take pressure on yourself in that time, you're not going to make it. It is more a function of how you do and how you prepare and how you make that transition. I'll be speaking more on that at some point in time. But I would not really pinpoint that this is like the key success factor. There are success factors, and I'll bring it out. Maybe they are more behavioral than genetic, so to speak.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mayuresh. So one of the greatest myths for the session that has been debunked by Mayuresh is that you don't necessarily need to be from a technical background, engineering background, math or statistics background to enter data science. You can pick up some of the technical programming languages, one of them being Python, by practicing it for 30 minutes for the next 30 days, and you should be good with that. So thank you so much, Mayuresh. I think at the core of solving for business problems, I think it is the innate ability to develop your cognitive ability to solve to problem solve for any problem at hand. So I think to all aspirants who are asking what kind of skills should I develop, I think at the heart of it is the problem solving skills. So if you enjoy solving problems for business, I think you have a fair shot at having a career in data science. With that, Sudhir, I'd love to understand your perspective on the normal that used to exist 2 months ago has changed. We are in COVID times where everyone's thinking and rethinking of how organizations and businesses would be built and set up. So in times like these, what is your understanding of how data science jobs or data science as a function will continue to sustain and survive, in times to come?
Yeah. And it's not only one is about the COVID situation, and the other one is there is so much around like loss of jobs coming, losing due to automation and all of those kind of things. But whatever may come, data science is one area where we haven't seen any drop in the number of jobs, at least looking at the job boards in India or across the globe right now. So this is, as I said earlier, it's not good to have anymore. For most of the businesses, they're starting with the concept of the startups and large companies are completely going with data science as the core of the software engineering or the product offerings. So that said, I don't see any real impact to data science jobs immediately. There may be some pause on data science jobs, from what we are seeing at shortlist in general from the clients, that being because people are trying to come out, conduct interviews and understand the impact of the business and those kind of things. But I would highly encourage people to really take advantage of this time and upskill themselves into a lot of areas in data science, and keep them up, try hackathons and all of those different areas to upskill. But jobs from the jobs perspective, I don't see any impact to data science jobs in the long term.
Mayuresh, do you have a perspective on that as well? Are you seeing the digital jobs or the remote jobs, and then data science being one of those, that's here to stay?
Absolutely, most definitely. We are, placing people even as we speak right now. There are people who are getting placed today, this afternoon. I'm kind of, presenting at some point in time. Maybe I'll just open the most raw form, that is like, my WhatsApp conversation. So data science is not going anywhere. This is not like the year 2000, and I think a lot of people may not be able to relate, but year 2000 and Java. Java didn't go anywhere. Java continued to grow. It is one of the most dominant language that we have at this point in time. Data science is not a language. It is not a construct. It is something that is going to enabling a lot of things, a lot of applications in time to come, going forward. So it is not a particular skill, language or library that's here and that will disappear, or it's a fad. I think this is here to stay. We're going to grow only progressively from here. And this is like the stem of it, and we're going to go into a big tree from here on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Ronak, we had a very recent question that's come in from one of the participants. and they're asking like, how did Grey Atom course that you sort of took molded your professional journey and got you to where you are? What is the format? How, and I'm sure Mayuresh is going to sort of like, deep dive into this a little bit more, but before we break for Q&A from the audience, would love to understand what was your journey, that you took with Grey Atom.
So first thing I would say, the study module, the structure that they have with the classroom format, I think that was exactly what I was looking for. And going through the course over a series of stages, I think the case studies that I was able to involve myself, that was very close to the industry requirements. So the moment I got out of the course and went to my next job in data science, I was able to kind of like start working on them without too much sweat as such. So I would say the problems that they have shaped up, I think that's definitely going to help for a beginner like who has no experience working on the data science problems. So that's one of the biggest takeaway that anyone would have.
Got it. Sudhir, do you think there is a use case of data science and cybersecurity, given everything's become remote and everything from transactions to the way we work? Cybersecurity is on everyone's mind. So Vivek is asking us about if there is scope of data science and cybersecurity.
Definitely, there is so much emphasis on cybersecurity as we speak, as many people are continuing to work from home. And even the product that we are currently using, Zoom, has been using a lot of data science to understand and implement for some of the offerings that Zoom has been using are coming from artificial intelligence, where they are involved, where they are integrated with cybersecurity products. So there is a lot of combination of these technologies that is making data science more powerful. Cybersecurity is one area, IoT is one area, and definitely a lot of the stuff that we are doing with software in general. And to add to my earlier point, data science is not a fad anymore. People have realized the gains, the return on investment from companies have realized the return on investment from data science. There are some technologies that have come and gone. I'm like virtual reality, augmented reality. Some of them are still there. People are still trying. They're amazing technologies. People are still trying to find out how to use them in a scaled manner. But this data science is something which is really good, and they're able to see the gains and the value of it. It's not still a new new technology or new area anymore.
Yeah, thanks, Sudhir. I think that's very, very useful useful insight. With this, I'll switch over to a few of the questions that I'm reading very, very actively on the chat over here. I was saying there are different domains and different data science streams that people have heard floating around in news articles or blog posts that everyone interested in data science keeps reading. And these key phrases go like deep learning, natural language processing, business analytics, big data. Mayuresh wanted to understand what's the best nomenclature or categorization for the beginners or people who are just starting. Where can they go and educate around what all of these different streams mean?
Right. So I think at the very heart of it is, and I'm going to have a very brute force kind of a hierarchy established over here, and it is very easy to challenge this from a very purist perspective. But I'm just going to hazard this just to make sure that this is simplified. I think at the very root and base of it is you have statistics, you have ability to do basic summarizations, ability to draw some sort of reports, the whole reporting mansion as it is typically called in the business intelligence kind of a world. The moment you kind of move on, then you're moving on to trying to solve some specific problems with the help of data. You pull it out, you solve the problem, you put together in a deck, and you ship it back to the client, and you help them understand. And there are offline recommendations, and they are implemented in the business. Then you get into, I would say, let's call it mainstream data science, where you're doing something more programmatic. You are serving your output from the data science. more real-time basis, or maybe on a cron job basis. But that's getting into a product, or it is getting into a service which is consumed by the audience globally. And then there are specific use cases which require algorithms which are state of the art, algorithms which are optimized for use of hardware, use of software, use of memory, use of computation. And you get into essentially techniques which you typically end up calling deep learning. And again, please, this is very easy to challenge from a purist perspective, but I'm making it simple. And then you really get into something that is absolutely current at this point in time, which is like driverless car. And then once you get into those realms, you're talking about reinforcement learning. So it's basically not increase in difficulty, but I think higher appreciation with respect to use cases and problems being solved at this point in time. And you have different areas that are vaguely, loosely mapped to some of these areas. So that's like, I think, a good one-on-one kind of a mapping. But again, there can be a very elaborate discussion on this. So that's, I think, good enough for right now.
Sure. Sudhir, for employers who want to start building their data teams, what is your recommendation to them, as CD of the organization, of like data science as a function, and how many people should be hired to begin with, what kind of roles should they be hired in, and so on and so forth.
Mridvika, I lost you for a bit, but I see if a company wants to start building their data teams, I'm like, how should they start? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, definitely. One of the big thing I'm like, most companies have to realize is to get their data in place. The first thing is they have to identify all of the sources of data which are distributed across multiple sources, like it could be databases, it could be Excel sheets, it could be Google Analytics, wherever it is. So the data engineering aspect of data science is the first thing, where they have to collect the data, keep it in a single place, or clean it, sanitize it, massage it, and keep it in a place that is ready for the scientists to come and analyze on top of it. So I would say for anybody who wants to start it, they need to start getting the data in place and focus on data integrity, data cleaning, and data lakes or such kind of work. And then they can definitely immediately bring in the data scientists who can run algorithms, analysis, insights, and stuff.
Sounds good. Yeah. And how many people should one hire? Should one hire one person to begin with, or one person across different functions?
Yeah, there is no one size fits all to this answer, because it all depends about the size of the companies. Startups usually start like with hiring 1 or 2 people to begin with. And when it comes to large companies, especially large companies who have a lot of legacy data and they want to really take advantage of it. For example, a company like Reliance, for example, if they want to move into data science, they have like terabytes and petabytes of data. So they need to have a larger team to start organizing the data in place and then identifying some of the major pain points and problems that they need to solve. So it depends on the size of the company and the kind of investments they're making. But usually it's they start small and then grow big.
Sure. Mayuresh, people are asking how many days does it take for someone to become a data scientist? Now, there is no one size fits all. It totally depends on what the interest is and where the base level that they're starting on with. But like how typically, like, what's the average duration that you'd bet on?
Right. That's actually a very fantastic question. If someone is telling you that you will become a data scientist in 7 days, 15 days, 30 days, you don't become a data scientist in 7 days, 15 days, 30 days. We have seen practically people take 6 months on an average to make this kind of a transition. We have seen people ahead of the curve with a transition in 4 months also. By transition, I mean that people get jobs. 6 months is a very reasonable time. 6 to 8 months is a very reasonable time. And trying to force anything more than that would be just asking too much of yourself. It takes 6 months. That's a short answer.
Sounds good. Thank you. And with this, what I do is, because there are a lot of questions around that, there are so many books available, there are so many tutorials available that are self-paced, that individuals can read themselves and master some of the skills that are needed to become a data scientist. And people are also asking question around, like, how does Grey Atom differentiate itself from other such online courses that are available. So why don't I let you talk a little bit more about Grey Atom, the courses and the program offerings that exist, which will cover a lot of questions that people have on their mind.
Sure, very happy to do that. I am going to just jump into a very short presentation and a very elaborate kind of a demo. Being absolutely mindful of time, we are at 7:43 and we have probably a good 16-17 minutes to kind of spend very valuably over here. Agenda is very simple. I think what we have spoken over here, I'm going to hit upon some of those points again and just going to share that recipe with you. A recipe with you about how do you really become a data scientist. I'm seeing these questions again and again with respect to what books to refer, how do I become a data scientist, what is the difference between all these things. So if I can just come to you and give that really quick answer, that would be awesome. I don't really have a very large deck or anything of that sort, but I really have a very brief, concise, direct, and a very unambiguous point, a direct point to make over here. Right, so I'm just going to quickly jump into it. Let's just quickly understand, what is it that the market really wants. Shortlist, I think, is in the best and the awesome position to answer that, because they are essentially mobilizing talent, porting it into industry day in, day out. But again, we have also realized this, seen this, because we have had people kind of getting into industry for the last 4 years, and we've had that successful recipe. So here is what really, just to summarize what the market really wants. Here is what your employer wants. Here is what the company that is going to give you a job that they want. A, they want practitioners. Absolutely. They want practitioners, people managers, people who are doing some sort of engagement management were required at some point in time, but not mainstream at this point in time. It doesn't mean that the roles for them do not exist. It's just that the bulk of the roles are practitioners. If you can get your hands dirty, solve problems for your clients, I think you are very much in demand. You have to be able to solve the problem end to end. The whole machine learning pipeline, if you're able to own it and you're able to solve the problem, I think you are very much required, right from engaging with the client, getting the data, processing it, putting together a base model, optimizing it, getting it out back to the client, either as a endpoint or a programmatic way or some sort of a deck. I think that is absolutely something that is required. Guys, you absolutely must have a superpower of your own. You need to know one thing better than anyone else in the market. It can be a simple algorithm. If you know gradient boosting machines, you should know gradient boosting machines programmatically, mathematically, the implementation of it, how does it fit into the industry, what are the various use cases it lends itself to. So everything should be kind of known. And the best way to do that and portray that and showcase that is to actually do a project around it. So you absolutely need to have that superpower. It can be something very tiny, but very, very essential that is required in the market. Finally, you learn, and you will need to continuously learn from wherever you are at any point in time in your career or your future. So learnability, ability to learn again and again and again. You're learning something when you're kind of picking up the skill, great. But once you go to the industry, you need to kind of continuously upskill yourself. Quickly, just touching on this, get your hands dirty, know the whole thing end to end, have that one superpower, and just be willing to learn all the time. I think that is what really is what the market really needs. Over the last 4 years, we've seen quite a lot of people. There are a good number of people who are on the platform at this point in time. We have transitioned a lot of people in the market. But what I mean by that is our success is very simple. If you as a student gets a job, that is success for us. Very, very simple. And we've seen a lot of them succeed. We've also seen a few of them not succeed, and we've also learned from them. And we just want to bring that to you. This on the right hand side is the recipe, and I'm just going to show this to you right away, right now. And I'm just going to jump in right away into a small product that we have. This is the Grey Atom learning platform. This is where the whole learning is centered around. So here you have all the programs that are loaded. So let's just get into one of these programs. So the point number one thing, and I think we already asked this question at some point in time, what does it require to become a data scientist, a successful one at that? The point number one is you should have access to a very structured curriculum. What I mean by structured curriculum is you have everything at one place. It is in the right sequence so that you're able to pick up the concepts which add into each other, and it is something that is totally optimized. What we have over here is that, say, the regularization comes after the inferential statistics, and that comes after Python. There is a very specific reason for this. We spoke about maths and statistics. There are prescriptive approaches on the web which tell you that you need to learn maths from 7th standard, 8th standard, 11th standard, and a lot of people start doing it. And what we have seen is that people give up their aspiration, their hope, their ambition in the first 20% of the journey. Maths is best consumed. The mathematical deep dive is best done when you're closest to the point of applying it. I'm not making a judgment, but as a nation, engineering or some of the other disciplines are not done in a very applied way in this particular country. So we really don't learn maths with the application mindset. We learn maths because we need to solve the sum. So what I'm trying to bring over here is a structured curriculum, is where you have everything loaded over here, right from the basics of Python, you getting started over there, up to the project that you deliver and put in your GitHub repository. Everything is kind of over here. And once you kind of jump into this, the modules, the sub-modules, the topics, the tasks, everything are kind of outlined over here. Even within the topics, where should you be reading something? I think someone asked about what books to read. When you should be reading, when you should be watching a video, when you should be doing concept onboarding, when you should be doing a mathematical deep dive, when you should be doing practice, which is the most important thing. We learn how to cycle by cycling. We learn how to cycle by cycling. We don't learn how to cycle by watching other people cycle. So here is again one thing where you have a visual intuition that is kind of built in. Everything is very elaborately given over here. But the most important part, and that you need to move on very quickly, is that you need to be practicing it. You need to be practicing it. And that is also built in over here. And that is 100% built in this particular system, where you have, this is the lesson, this is the concept that you need to pick up. And once you pick up this lesson, this is the assignment that you have to solve. You can very well refer to the lesson that is up there, the syntax that is up there. You can ask, you can read, you can search, you can go on the web, and then you can come back. Of course, there are hints and solutions that are very much available over here, but we don't want you to use hints and solutions. And that's why we put in a very small penalty over here. We want you to struggle. The funny part about education is that all the web products are there to make your life easy. Education is something where we want you to struggle, because with that struggle comes the learning. We want you to get stuck, because with that getting stuck is when you start asking questions to the mentors, to your peers, and that's where the learning happens in those incremental spurts. And that's exactly kind of built in over here. So whether they are practice assignments, whether they are quizzes, whether they are those theoretical deep dives, whether they are those cheat sheets which are available within each of those topics, which will help you revise, which will help you summarize the topic, everything is 100% loaded over here. There is material that we also recommend to you beyond this. There are a whole host of playlists and videos that we have ourselves built over a period of time on the Grey Atom YouTube link. And we also want you to go through that. But everything is kind of over here. If you follow this recipe with respect to just making sure that you're practicing consistently, repeatedly, you're doing it again and again and again, you will make that transition over a period of time. It takes time. It is more behavioral than anything else. If you're solving these assignments again and again over a period of time, you will make this transition. So that's the number one point. You need to have access to a structured curriculum. You have to make sure that you keep on practicing. Everything that we have over here the whole 6 months duration that we have, you have planned it out to the T. 429 assignments, 16 projects. If you're able to do that, projects which are small and big, if you're able to do that, if you complete that diligently week after week, absolutely, you will be able to make that transition. Somewhere I think what we've also seen is that to learn AI alone cannot help you. You absolutely need to have a human intervention. Ronak spoke about, he was part of the classroom cohort. So I think he spoke about, importance of mentors and how he was, absorbing from what he saw in the classroom. So you absolutely need to have mentors. At Grey Atom, we have been upskilling people with career pivoting outcomes. We have been upskilling people where they have been able to get jobs in the online format, even before the corona happened. So before the COVID-19, we were doing this for almost a year. So we have some first-hand insights of how people really upskill themselves, how to bring about discipline in people when they are studying in a remote setting. Because motivation wavers, it's a long journey. It takes 6 months, up and down. So you absolutely need to be keeping, you need to stay focused. You need someone to keep you focused. Mentors play that role. So here you have again a session that is scheduled on 16th of May, that is 2 days from now. And the person who is having access to this particular account, he has access to everything that he has to practice, learn, keep on revising. And also he or she has access to what the mentor is going to cover in a code along session, in a live code along session. These are not recorded videos. There is actual human being who's kind of logging in from some part of the world and he's kind of teaching us. So if you can just look at this particular mentor, and there are many of them, I'll just quickly take you through all of them. This particular person logs in from New Zealand. He's a working data scientist. He's a data scientist. He's the one that you want to become. You want to aspire to become someone like him. So that's exactly what we are talking about, learning from real people. And my point number 4. Point number 1, you have to have structured curriculum. You need to practice. You need to have mentors. And number 4 is you absolutely need to have projects. You need to build a portfolio when you're going to the industry. So that is absolutely critical. So that is something that is very much factored in as a part of the whole curriculum. We want you to go through it. We have at Grey Atom what we call as the guided hackathon. By what we mean by a guided hackathon is that we make you come online in a Zoom meeting. We break you out into different small rooms using a feature called as breakout rooms. There is a mentor that is assigned to you. There is a team that is assigned to you. And we make sure that you are solving a specific problem and you're taking it to your GitHub repository so that your portfolio is being built. These are both guided and unguided hackathons. So this is what a problem statement typically looks like. These are all industry problem statements. These are from the industry. These are from our hiring partners at some point in time. And how do you solve them? What is the data set that you need to use? How do you upload this? Everything is kind of given over here. So guys, here is the simple recipe. 4 big points, 3 small ones. You need to have structured curriculum. Number 2, you need to have practice. Number 3, you need to have mentors, access to mentors. You need to see people in progress, people who are taking interviews from the other side, people who are telling you what is going to be asked in the interview. Number 4, you absolutely must be solving projects. Finally, everything that you do, put it on GitHub in a very nice structured way. You have to blog. You have to communicate to the world that you know it and you are able to communicate it to the people. Last but not the least, you have to be doing a lot of teamwork. You have to learn in teams. And that's where I think the Grey Atom learning community also comes into play. So quickly flipping back, we spoke about all of this: structured curriculum, practice, mentors, work in teams, social, start blogging, so on and so forth. So guys, that's the long and short of it. We've seen people succeed with this again and again and again. There is enough of evidence on this. We recommend that you go to greyatom.com, go to success stories and discover. I saw questions where you are fresher, you are a working professional, you're from a mechanical background, electrical background, you're from a non-engineering background, you're in between jobs. There is, it's not too old and it's not too, you never get too old to pick up data science, and you're never too young. The youngest learner that we have is someone who is in the 9th standard, someone is in 9th grade. And the eldest is someone who is 72 years old. The person has more than superannuated a couple of times and is doing this and is getting and has hands dirty. So there are people all across the spectrum. The bulk of the use cases, of course, 0 to 5 years experience, and they are trying to make this kind of a transition. But yes, people are making this transition day in, day out. There is enough evidence well established that the system works, the recipe works, and there is a reason why that it works, because it has been not pulled out from thin air, but this has been iterated very rigorously and meticulously over the last 4 years. Guys, one last point. Don't want to end on a very disappointing note, but very important. There are people who fail, and there are people who don't make this transition. And just want to quickly highlight why. I think we spoke about this. It takes 6 months. It takes 8 months. Don't try to force it. It takes time to make this transition happen. If you're going to place irrational expectations on yourself, you're going to just burden yourself, and you're going to burn yourself out. It takes time. You are going to need help till the time you're able to practice on your own. Once you cross that barrier, 30-40%, whatever that barrier is for you, you will not need help. You will be able to practice on your own. You will be able to sustain on your own. But the importance in the early stages is on generating momentum, is on generating those small wins, and then making that real transition. It's a very critical phase, that it's the real critical point that you come across, but it is something that is very much required out there. It's a team sport. It's a team sport. You will need your mentors. You will need your peers. You will need your career counselors. You will need someone who's helping you all along the way. And that's essentially, been our discovery in this particular process. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think we've kind of come to the end of it. Shortlist is our esteemed partner. We work with Shortlist. We work with the whole team at Shortlist. I think they're doing a fabulous job for the entire ecosystem. They've taken a very fresh take on how the process of talent scouting essentially happens. We're working with them. We have this product. You can go on the website and you can find a price that's right there. For the attendees who are right over here, and everyone who's part of the shortlist, there is a very special price which is at a discount from that, which is available on the website. So please, I think you will have that link in your chat anytime right now, and kind of recommend that you please go and have a look at it, check out the program. If you have any questions, very happy to answer it. There are a couple of programs, and I'll take 1 more minute. Program number 1, you get 48 live mentor sessions, 48 live mentor sessions. Apart from everything that we showed, 48 live mentor sessions, that is 72 hours of training in the whole year. We have spaced it out. The mentor is not going to spoon feed you, but the mentor is going to make sure that you are progressing. And there is a second package, which we call as the transition package, which is for 144 hours. That is twice the number of contact hours that we have over here. And the prices for both of them are right here, right now. So it is 72 hours and the 148 hours. In the 144 hours, you get 48 sessions plus you get 36 sessions, which we call as the career counseling sessions, career sessions, where people come and they will sit with you and they will tell you that, of course, in a webinar kind of a setting, that this is the interview in a specific company. How did I crack it? How did the person crack it? What were the questions that were asked? Not how to dress and how to answer questions of hellos and highs. Technical questions. How did I open my portfolio? How did I defend it? How did I get into the depth of it? That's required over there. How did I make that transition? The last mile. That is exactly what is covered in that particular session. So we have 36 of those sessions and 48 of these sessions, typically 2 touch points every week to keep you motivated, to keep you pumped up. This is a long journey. 6 months is all that it takes, but you need to. I'm not giving you an easy solution. I'm telling you a recipe that works. I'm not giving you a recipe that is easy. Nothing is easy. It's hard work. If you make and you put in that grind, you will be able to make that transition. Guys, that's pretty much it. I think we have run out of time, but we can maybe extend this session by 10 to 15 minutes. Very happy to take questions. And over to you, Mridvika.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayuresh. I think your presentation was very comprehensive. I've tried to bucket the questions in categories that we tried to answer through the course of this presentation. I think this session's been recorded, so I don't know, Mayuresh, is this going to be available to the participants as well? So for someone who's missed the Q&A part earlier, and if they join middle of the session.
The webinar is recorded and would be available for everyone.
Sure. So for some of you who have missed listening to the responses of the questions that you had asked in the chat, you can review the recording that will get shared with you, in next 24 to 48 hours after the session's over. As Mayuresh mentioned, Grey Atom and Shortlist have partnered to create an ecosystem of aspiring data scientists, and Shortlist is playing a role in helping these data scientists find a job or a career that they find fulfilling. So we are trying to sort of get employers on board. I put up a link in the chat window above that essentially takes you to the landing page where you can register your interest and everyone that registers there will be sort of engaged by both Grey Atom and by Shortlist to find opportunities. I think we've tried to cover almost all the questions that we received in different buckets. But if anyone has any specific questions, Mayuresh and Sudhir and I are going to be around for the next 5 to 7 minutes to take those questions.
Right, guys, just one quick ask of you. I'm just going to launch a very small quick poll. In case you are interested in being contacted by the Grey Atom team and you need some help with respect to transitioning, we would be very happy to do so. It's a very simple yes and no, and that's it. So just chime in your inputs and we are good. I think there are quite a few interesting questions. Sudhir, maybe you want to take this. What is the scope for data science in the African region?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's very relevant to Shortlist because I'm like many of you may know, Shortlist serves many countries in Africa. For countries like Africa, governments, companies, and investors are like really betting on data science to solve some of their basic necessity problems. Even for somebody to provide a loan for small ticket items, people are using data science to gather the data and kind of predict the chances of them paying back, for example. That is a very small example. And like that, there are many other challenges, and data science is one area where they're really hoping to make a difference. This is same thing happening for distribution channels, where they're trying to getting into e-commerce. Africa is getting into so much of e-commerce lately with the kind of demographics and population. So there are many problems that, and a lot of large companies in US are trying to shift or set up their data science offices and teams in Kenya and a couple of other countries in Africa. And there is one more question around how is Shortlist gonna help us shortlist after the program? Mrids, you want to take this, or I can take this too?
What is the question, Sudhir? Can you point to that?
How is Shortlist gonna help us shortlist after the program?
Sure. So if I understand the question correctly, it's asking how will Shortlist help data science professionals find a job?
I think it's slightly yes, and then it's more about the shortlisting process. How Shortlist does the shortlisting process for candidates who have finished the Grey Atom course.
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier as well, that there's a data science marketplace that Shortlist and Grey Atom have jointly put together. You can log on there and register your interest. The process of shortlisting is very simple. We on our platform have created a digital obstacle course of sorts that allows us to take the aspirants through through a digital obstacle course of assessment. So it starts with a simple chatbot that allows us to gather data points and interest, what kind of jobs you're looking for, what kind of past expertise you have, what location you're in, and all the binary information that we try and collect from you. Then we put you through specific assessments to test whether you'd be better fit for a machine learning job, or whether you'd be you're appropriately getting started on a data analyst level, or will statistician be a better fit for you. So we take the candidates through this short assessment on our platform, and then on the other side we generate the demand and bring on employers who are hiring for one of these roles, and match it using our match candidates with the employers using our platform. So that's the community that we are trying to build, which will hopefully be a curated community that allows us to sort of go beyond just helping job seekers find the job, but also sort of spark discussions and bring them together to do projects that are of mutual interest. Hope that answers that question.
I think, yes, Nitz, just to address a lot of other questions, and many people had about can people transition into data science course if they're not from the engineering background, or if they are into other software fields and all of those things. I can say, like Mridvika just mentioned, there is a lot more emphasis on the problem you're going to solve and how you're going to solve the problem, more than coming from about your college degree versus the kind of degree that you're bringing into the platform. So this shortlist is very uniquely positioned to kind of showcase your talent based on the kind of problem you solve and how you solve that particular use case or case exercise, what we may call. That is why it's you should be less worried about all of your background, as long as you can learn the stuff properly and be there to solve the business problems.
Right. I think there's just a few questions that are coming in over a private channel over here. One is, I think, with respect to what are the difference between the two programs that we just spoke about. So one is, I think, you get access to the platform for 12 months. You get the access to all the content that is being built right now, that is already there, completely loaded. In the Learn program, which is for 10,800 over here, you get access to 48 sessions, 48 sessions. And in the Transition program, you get access to 48 plus 36 sessions. 48 plus 36 sessions. These 36 sessions are again by live mentors and people who are essentially helping you going to get that job, the last 5 mile, the career transition sessions. Please mind, bulk of these sessions are technical sessions. These are not like how to dress and how to speak sessions. These are like technical sessions. So you get 48 plus 36 sessions over there. So that's like the key difference between the two programs over here. Awesome.
I think we are towards the end of it, Mayuresh. If I can take your permission and wrap this up, we will definitely be in touch with everyone who has open questions and try and answer offline. Thank you everyone for your engagement and participation. We look forward to engaging with you, either on the Grey Atom platform or the Shortlist Marketplace. Either ways, we wish you a very, very bright and fruitful career in data science. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sudhir. Thanks, Mayuresh, and thank you so much, Rona.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe, stay at home, prepare for what's coming up. Don't panic, and most importantly, take care of your health. Good night. I'll see you soon.
Good evening, everyone. Bye.